If you're like me and grew up during the early 2000s, then chances are you've played on one of these. The Nintendo DS. For some, it was all about Mario Kart. For some, Nintendogs or brain training. For others, Dragon Quest. But if I had to pick a game that defined the Nintendo DS, it would have to be Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. I know what you're thinking immediately, that's Platinum. And listen, I lost my Pokemon Diamond quite a while ago, so give me a break. I'm not exaggerating when I say that when this game came out in 2007, most people my age had it. It was a huge thing, the highest selling game in the Pokemon series up to that point, and it received higher critic scores than Leaf Green and Fire Red, as well as Ruby and Sapphire. Not only that, but I feel Diamond, Pearl and Platinum are the best Pokemon games full stop, for reasons that I'll explain throughout this video. First, however, I just want to tell you a little bit about the game and about my experience with it. So without further ado, let's travel to the small town of Twinleaf and begin our adventure. Pokemon Diamond and Pearl is set in the Sinnoh region, which is supposedly based on the Japanese island of Hokkaido. The geography of Hokkaido includes a range of large volcanic mountains in its centre, vast areas of wetland, and a cluster of smaller islands just off its coast. It doesn't necessarily have weird sky bridges and strange spaceship-looking buildings, but we'll let that one slide. As in all Pokemon games, you begin in your small hometown and are essentially forced out of your house and set on a journey to become the greatest trainer that ever lived. You're introduced to several characters at the beginning, your best friend / rival, who might just be the most egotistical person in the world, Professor Rowan, Dawn, and your own mother, who actually doesn't care about you at all. Your rival, I apparently chose to call mine Sandwich, is so enthusiastic about becoming the champion of the Pokemon League that he forgets he needs a Pokemon to do it. Thankfully though, Professor Rowan strolls out of the wilderness and immediately offers you a Pokemon. Now say what you like about Squirtle, Charizard and Bulbasaur, but in my opinion, this is the best choice of starter in any Pokemon game. You can either choose the cute looking tortoise that evolves to have a fully grown tree on its back, the fire ape that turns into Monkey from Kung Fu Panda, or the penguin who evolves into a penguin. In my opinion, the designs of these starters and their evolutions are pretty much perfect. I'm not sure you can do a better job when it comes to creating a cute younger first form, awkward teenage second form, and very epic sweet third form. In later playthroughs, I've always chosen Piplup as I think it's actually my favourite starter from all of the games, but for whatever reason, in my first ever Pokemon playthrough, I chose Turtwig and named it Jimmy in full capitals. Anyway, the Sinnoh region is home to 3 large lakes, Verity, Valor, and Acuity? I don't know. These lakes prove very important as you progress through the game. For now though, your main goal is to train up your Pokemon and challenge the 8 gyms. This involves travelling from town to town, but there are many obstacles along the way, such as rock and bush, that require Pokemon moves to advance past. These specialised moves, known as HMs, are necessary to advance the game, but unbelievably bad in battle. And what's more, once a Pokemon has learnt an HM, it can never be replaced. Have no fear though, your prayers have been answered. A wild Bidoof approaches. Bidoof is the ultimate HM slave, especially once it's evolved into B-Barrel, where it can also learn moves like Surf and Strength. And it just makes perfect sense if you think about it. B-Barrel is a beaver. Beavers can cut down trees. Beavers can swim in the water. Beavers are incredibly strong. Beavers can smash rocks. It's no wonder that Game Freak chose an apex predator such as the beaver to become one of the worst Pokemon in the game. Maybe that's a little harsh on B-Barrel, but it does essentially just take up a space in your party most of the time. Our journey then takes us through Jubilife City and then onwards to Orberg, where you can challenge the Rock Gym and absolutely pummel a load of Geodudes. The best thing about Orberg though is something called the Mining Kit, which as the name implies allows you to burrow a hole in the ground pretty much wherever you are and explore a huge mine system that covers the whole of Sinnoh. Once down in the mines, you can search for fossils and shards in the walls, or you could do what me and my friends did and connect using DS Wireless so you can play tag. What's more, you can set up a secret base in a place of your choosing and decorate it with furniture and ornaments. Each person's base has something called a flag, and if you manage to infiltrate a friend's secret base, you can steal their flag and run back to store it in your own. I think I spent about as many hours in the mines in my first playthrough as I did playing the actual game. After Allberg, you have to return to Jubilife, and this is where Team Galactic are introduced. Distinguishable by their blue bowl-cut hair, Team Galactic are an evil corporation run by a crazy man who intends to recreate the world in his own image. Not to worry though, I'm sure they won't pop up again. Now let's go explore a town full of flowers. Past the town full of flowers is a very large forest and then Eterna City, home of the grass gym. Here you can obtain a bike and then rev on down to Veilstone to complete the fighting gym, then Pastoria for the water gym, Hearthome for the ghost gym, and Carnival City for the steel type gym. In Carnival, you'll meet Professor Rowan again, and he'll tell you about this tale of 3 Mirage Pokemon appearing at each of the 3 lakes in Sinnoh. Therefore, he sends you, your rival, and Dawn to 1 lake each, which considering how useless both your rival and Dawn are, you're gonna have to do all 3 anyway. Upon travelling to Lake Valor, you'll find the lake has been completely drained by Team Galactic, which sort of makes you wonder where they put all the water. Maybe they just drowned Hearthome City or something. Anyway, after travelling to the centre of the lake, you'll find Galactic Commander Saturn, who reveals Team Galactic's plans to use the 3 Mirage Pokemon to bring back the legendary Pokemon of time and space, which they'll use to destroy and then reconstruct the world. I know. After beating him in a Pokemon battle, you can then fly to Lake Verity, and lo and behold, Dawn and the Professor are struggling against Galactic Commander Mars, who seems to be cosplaying as Knuckles from Sonic the Hedgehog.
Gold medal, Knuckles!
Plus, of all the Pokemon to choose as your frontrunner, the Pokemon that really defines you as a trainer, why on God's green earth would you choose Purugly, the walking embodiment of cat obesity that's been overindulging on Felix variety packs in Cravendale its whole life? At this point, there's only 1 lake remaining, but unfortunately, to get there, you have to travel through Mount Cornetto, which takes what feels like several years, and then finally, you'll be in the north.
Winter's coming. Soon be cardigan weather.
After catching Frostbite, you'll get to Snowpoint City, which is just a lovely place. Here you can do the ice gym and head to the 3rd lake, Lake Acuity, where your rival is completely failing to do his part of the mission. You'll then have to beat Commander Jupiter, who isn't cosplaying as Knuckles, but instead Sonia from the Sonic Underground TV series, and after that you can head to Team Galactic's headquarters in Veilstone to take them down for good. You'll then have to battle Bowl Haircut after Bowl Haircut until you reach a spooky room where 3 legendary Pokemon are wired up to some sort of machines. Now it's time to face the brains behind the whole operation, Cyrus, who rewards you for beating him by giving you a present? Oh whoa, it's a Master Ball. Maybe this guy's not so bad after all, you know? I was pretty quick to judge him, and sure he's an absolute psychopath, but does that really make him a bad person? What was that? Oh crumbs! Quickly, to Mount Cornetto! The place you're heading for is known as Spear Pillar, and I actually think this is the best run up to a legendary battle from any Pokemon game. The location is very cool, the whole run of battles with the galactic bosses is perfect, the impending doom of both time and space being rewritten is an interesting one. I should reiterate, the 2 legendaries from these games, Dialga and Palkia, have control over time and space. This is the big moment. Once Cyrus is dealt with, you'll have the chance at catching a legendary Pokemon. If you got Diamond like I did, then this Pokemon is Dialga, the infinitely cooler of the 2, but if you got Pearl, well, let's be honest, nobody had Pearl. So, now that I have a legendary Pokemon, I suppose it needs a legendary name, so let's see what I called it. Ah, it's also called Jimmy in full capitals. It's worth noting that this sequence of events is slightly different in Pokemon Platinum, and instead of battling either Dialga or Palkia, a massive wormhole rips open and you end up travelling into the void to catch Giratina. Now that we've dealt with that sidetrack though, it's time to get back to focusing on the Pokemon League. You can head to Sunyshore City to challenge the Electric Gym, but before that I decided to return to all 3 lakes where you can now catch the Mirage Pokemon. Uxie, Azelf and Mesprit, who unfortunately teleports around the world randomly, so it's quite hard to track down. My favourite of the 3 was Uxie, at least I think that's how you pronounce it, and it actually became one of the best members of my party. Now that we've completed all 8 gyms, it's time to go to the Pokemon League via Victory Road and challenge the Elite Four. Yet again, I'm just gonna say it, I think this is the best Elite Four from any Pokemon game. You'll start by facing the Bugman, who has the Bee and the Scorpion. Then it's on to the Ground-type Grandma, who uses the Hippo and the Catfish one. Then there's Fireman, who has both Monkey from Kung Fu Panda and also Horse from Kung Fu Panda. Lastly, it's Crazy Psychic Guy, who fields Alakazam, the silliest Pokemon ever. Why is he holding those spoons? I mean, what's he gonna do with a spoon? Furthermore, after all that, it's on to the champion, Cynthia. Name me another champion that opens with a Pokemon as niche as Spiritomb, and then proceeds to own you with Lucario, Milotic, and Garchomp. There's also Roserade and Gastrodon, but we don't talk about them. If you look at the roster of Pokemon that I've just named, I think it really demonstrates just how good the designs for this generation were. And if you need further proof, then take a look at the various teams I beat the game with. My first team of course included Jimmy the Torterra, Jimmy the Dialga, and my Uxie, as well as a Staraptor, Camerupt, and then obviously a B-Barrel. My second playthrough, I had Empoleon, Giratina, Roserade, Rotom, Heatran that you can catch post-game, and Shelworth, my Rampardos. Then finally on a third playthrough, I used Infernape along with Glaceon, Quagsire, Hippowdon, Bastiodon, and Craig Charles, my Abomasnow. All of these designs are creative, original, and very aesthetically pleasing. The same could be said for most of this generation, and you can just tell that so much effort was put into the development of each creature, especially in comparison to some of the new designs from the recent releases of Sword and Shield. I'm sorry, but what is that? I mean, I'm playing through Sword and Shield at the moment and I'm still using old Pokemon. My main guy's a clay doll called Professor Oak, for God's sake. And I don't think it's just the Pokemon designs they got right with this game. Call me an absolute madman, but I think Pokemon Diamond is where Pokemon's graphics peaked. I think the way that Pokemon is, the fact it's a turn-based fight system, the fact it's a text-based story means that it lends itself perfectly to this sort of 2D 8-bit aesthetic. In fact, I think there's a certain charm in walking around as a little blob of a guy through tiles of snow and small patches of grass. I might be a complete mental case, but I actually prefer graphics like this to graphics like this. I don't really see any way that having traditional Pokemon graphics limits the game. If you look at the variety of locations in Diamond and Pearl, from snowy alpine to the volcano climate post-game, they're all pretty well done. Plus, there's no need to worry about characterization either. The Elite Four are about as varied as can be and are still able to perfectly personify the type of Pokemon they use. The Team Galactic grunts are amazing, and if you put their leaders together, it feels like an episode of RuPaul's Drag Race, their hair's that crazy. Most importantly though, I feel like the graphics of Diamond and Pearl perfectly complement the kind of story that Pokemon games usually tell. Because the whole concept of Pokemon is quite cartoony and bizarre, there's no need to try and emulate reality, and in fact, it works better if you lean into the whole old school video game style. We're never going to get to the point where Pokemon games have a suspension of disbelief and people are like, whoa, when I threw that Pokeball and Piplup came out and started using water gun, it was so realistic, it was like real life. In my opinion, a game's graphics can be crystal clear, but if they don't do a good job at facilitating the story a game tells, then it's much better to find a style that does. I do obviously realise that Game Freak can't just continue churning out the same game because people are going to become bored, but to me, Pokemon is a weird 8-bit music, simplistic graphics, grinding up levels type of game, and that doesn't mean you can't create a great new storyline within that. It feels like with Sword and Shield, instead of focusing on making it feel open world and adding stupid new gimmicks like, oh look, it's a Pokemon, but now it's big. Why not put time into creating an engaging story that includes some good characters? Or actually put effort into making a new generation of imaginatively designed Pokemon, rather than just getting one of the penguins of Madagascar and sticking an ice cube on its head. This is an actual design for a new Pokemon that someone actually came up with, and they actually put it in the game. Another reason Diamond and Pearl was so good is because the game was actually reasonably difficult. For a start, moves were not as powerful as they are in the new games. To be able to one-shot your opponent, it felt like you had to be at least 5 or 10 levels higher, as well as being super effective against it, and even then the health bar would trickle down at a snail's pace. Furthermore, leveling was much harder, particularly as the EXP share only applied to one Pokemon at a time. This meant you were much more likely to use each Pokemon you had, as you would be grinding up levels with every single one. Now the XP share has been changed so it applies to all members of your party, it's entirely possible to keep a Pokemon in your party and rarely use it at all throughout the game. As a result, I think you lose some of that connection that you get from training your Pokemon up from low levels. I don't think I would feel as sentimental about this game if I wasn't weirdly attached to these virtual creatures I've worked to train and evolve. There seems to have been a focus since Diamond and Pearl came out to make the game more suitable for children, but they're fine as they are. The mechanics of the game are pretty accessible and easy to understand as it is. Put it this way, the fact that 8-year-old me figured out mostly how to play the game and was actually able to complete it shows it can't have been too overcomplicated. The problem is people don't often make the distinction between something something being complicated and something being difficult. Pokemon can be about as complicated as you want it to be. You can focus on maxing out stats using breeding or combining movesets to create unbeatable tactics, or you can just casually play the game as so many people always do. That doesn't mean that as soon as you make the game relatively difficult, those people are going to switch off. In fact, if you make the game too easy, the appeal is lost for everyone, as you don't feel like you're getting your money's worth. In summary, I think the reason Pokemon Diamond and Pearl was such a phenomenon is because the game encapsulated every aspect that draws people towards Pokemon in the first place. It's safe to say that most aspects of this game, from the map design to the move animations to the music and story, are all very carefully thought out and well executed. Anyway, those are the reasons that I think Diamond and Pearl are the best Pokemon games ever made. If you were like me and pretty much everyone your age had this game, then hopefully you'll know what I'm talking about. If you had Diamond, I'd like you to comment something like, Dialga is by far the superior legendary. If you had Pearl, then firstly my condolences, and I'd like you to comment, I made a serious and continuous lapse in my judgment. Please like, or Empoleon will hit you with a brine. Remember that move, guys? He'll hit you with brine. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and goodbye.